All right, let's dive right in. I discovered the hard way that people you trust the most can turn on you. Behind my back, my own wife and brother formed an alliance. You would think that after spending so much time together, you would truly know someone. Error, indeed. When I discovered their secret, it felt like a sucker punch to the stomach. I'm not, however, just lounging around bandaging my injuries. It won't be pretty for them when I exact my retribution. Retaliation? It's served cold and spicy, and it's definitely on the menu. This is my narrative. Take pleasure in the performance. The beginning of the worst day of my life was not too bad. I worked out when I woke up at 5:30. I ran 3 miles by myself on the track in the cloudy sky after lifting weights. I took 2 more miles to cool down by jogging through the streets and observing the curves after my run. I took a shower at home. My muffin and a glass of chocolate milk were already on the bar, thanks to Sarah. I kissed her as she was getting ready for work, and she complained about her smeared lipstick but melted into my arms. Her almost white, golden hair cascading down made her look even more stunning than she had at 31. From the skinny girl I took to prom our junior year, she had grown into a beautiful person. She demonstrated that dynamite comes in little packages even though she was only slightly taller than 5 feet. Particularly after our daughters were born, she flourished at her legal firm. She was making nearly as much money as I was thanks to her impressive work on high-profile accounts, even though I was moving up the corporate ladder at a big engineering and architectural firm and had just been given the opportunity to lead the architectural department. I said goodbye with another kiss and grabbed my muffin and suitcase. I waved and said, "Have a great day, beautiful." I was in charge of getting the girls ready for school, and she kissed me goodnight. She left for work an hour later. There was my other child in the garage. She had only been with me for roughly 6 months. She was a Charger Hellcat, orange burnt to ash. When I was 16 years old, my father assisted me in purchasing a 1968 RT. It's still parked under the shed. Sometimes I would just drive it up and down to hear the massive Hemi pass through the Flowmaster pipes. It was slower than the Hellcat, but not by much. I love it when Camaro and Mustang owners brag about their little toys. 2 days prior, an engineer was discussing his recently acquired Shelby GT350, which boasts nearly 500 horsepower. In the next office, he hoped to make an impression on Maria. The thought of the Hellcat generating more than 700 made me smile. The new pony cars were amazing, but they didn't belong in the same universe as the Challenger or Hellcat Charger. I like people who own hot rods. We're all parents of our own children and like making fun of the other guys. I had a really good workday. At around 1:30, I completed the power plant that our design team was working on, and I rested for the remainder of the afternoon. I had my infant in my sights. I could see myself in polish as I parked her in the garage on this beautiful afternoon. Sarah texted me to let me know that she would be arriving home at around 5 o'clock, as she was attending a meeting. I was in the kitchen making chocolate chip cookies at 3:30. I finished 2 pans and had a plate on the bar. I heard the living room door open, and 2 tiny angel voices came out. Dropping their backpacks, 2 tiny blonde pixies flew across the kitchen to encircle me. My babies, Carmen and Camber, were home. The cutest little bundles of love on God's green earth are identical twins. They lack my complexion, but they have Mom's bright blue eyes and freckles in their hair. Sarah is happy, but they matched my skin tone, and I'm naturally olive-complexioned. Their eyes and hair contrasted with one another. When they grew older, they were going to break hearts. They were so cute at 8 years old. They battled like hornets, but their only enemies were Sarah and each other. To me, they were just silk and honey. Nobody was brave enough to criticize either of them. Sarah found it hard to handle the 2 of them. I am aware of how much they loved their mother, but whenever she reprimanded one of them, the other would always support her sister. They were both capable of arguing as much as their mother. By telling me about their days, they surpassed each other in detail. After just 1 week of school, they were already infatuated with their new instructor. I had not yet met Miss Brooks, who was new to the district. My girls had definitely been impacted by her. I gave them big glasses of milk and chocolate chip cookies while listening to them and grinning stupidly. Yes, they could do no wrong. After all, they were my angels. After eating 3 cookies, they went upstairs to do their homework. I made it my rule for them to complete their homework as soon as they got home. The remainder of the evening was ours to do as we pleased. I heard Camber call my name as I took the last batch of cookies out of the oven and put them on the tray. I started up the stairs and experienced something strange. My phone started vibrating, so I pulled it out. A seemingly familiar-sounding number texted me, but it wasn't one of my contacts. I checked as I was climbing the stairs and saw that someone had texted me, "You were gorgeous and sexy today. I can't wait till tomorrow afternoon." Although I was grateful for the compliment, I wasn't sure who would have sent it because I didn't have anything else planned for the afternoon besides work. I thought the number had been entered incorrectly. I made the decision to deceive whoever it was. "Thank you, darling. Please remind me of the time and location," I wrote. Shortly after, I got a message saying, "You are using Shell's phone. Please delete this instance of Sheldon getting suspicious. Too soon, of course, we have our own place." I stopped halfway through the girl's doorway. "I'm Sheldon Clanton, and this is the end of my phone number, and 9 Sarah's is identical but finishes in 8, while the girls end in 7 and 6. Someone made a major error." I couldn't move or feel anything. Carmen looked up at me. "Daddy, we need help with these math problems." "What is wrong, Daddy?" Both girls rose up and looked at me. The expression on my face must have surprised them. I shook off the cobwebs. "It's nothing, ladies. It's just horrible news." "There's nothing to worry about, my babies," I lied. "Let's look at that math." The garage door opened, and I heard it 5 minutes later. Sarah was in her abode. She was moving around when I heard her, and a minute later she poked her head inside. She inquired, "What's for dinner?" "Hello, my lovelies," I answered. They stood up and gave her a hug. When they got back, Sarah came up behind me and put her arms around my neck. She nibbled my ear. She said, "I'm going to take a quick shower." After we completed the math, I asked the children if they would like to go to Incredible Pizza. They were all over it, and I was waiting in the car when they changed into shorts and t-shirts. Carmen questioned, "Isn't Mom coming?" She was having a difficult day, I told them. They were down, and we had a great time. Let her relax. We'll turn our phones off, and tonight, it's just me and my angels, right? I said. I neglected to switch off my phone, causing it to vibrate 12 times. I shrugged it off and returned to the games and the bad pizza. At 9:30 at night, we got home to find Sarah dozing off on the couch while clutching her phone. We tiptoed upstairs, me with my finger to my lips. After they got into bed, I went to grab my clothes for the next day. I locked the door after entering the spare bedroom. I didn't wake up until after midnight when there was a soft knock on the door. I heard someone say, "Shell, what are you doing?" from the stage. "Open the door." "Where have you gone?" "Why the hell is the door locked?" "Why are you in there?" I didn't reply. She repeatedly knocked and called my name a dozen times before giving up. She walked down the hallway toward our room. Well, that was our room, clearly not wanting to wake the girls. I had forgotten what it was. At 5:30 a.m., I woke up and put on clothes. Her alarm went off and I heard it as I stepped into the garage. I backed out of the Hellcat after getting in. Just before the garage door closed, I watched her pull in and then I drove to the park. That day, instead of running on the high school track, I went to the park. I didn't answer my phone when it rang 12 times. I got dressed and showered for work. I convinced my buddy Marcus to give up his favorite midday ritual. I had the impression that everything I held dear was being betrayed. That thing looked like every other little box-shaped car on the road, but it was something I could get into. My goal was to fit in. I parked across the street and waited, since Sarah's car was at the office. It was dark outside, and I knew that nobody could see me inside. At 2:30, Sarah emerged and got into her BMW. We drove into the suburbs, me staying behind her at a reasonable distance. I knew where we were heading as soon as she stepped into a subdivision. That's where my brother Mark lived. This is terrible, what the hell? That explained why the number seemed familiar to me now. He and I had never been close, and our communication was limited. He was only around for family get-togethers, which happened far too often for me to enjoy. 2 years ago, I dicked him when I saw him put his hand on Sarah's hips. Since then, we haven't spoken. Sarah did spend a lot of time with his wife. She pulled into his driveway as I pulled into the spot across the street. She looked disturbed when she emerged. I got out and strolled around the back of his house while she went inside. I had spent 100 years there. I was seeing things that I couldn't believe. Chloe, Mark's wife, was lying by the swimming pool. This was only becoming more bizarre. She was a stunning woman, intelligent and attractive, and she just overtly exuded class. She looked up to see me when she heard the rear gate. Panic filled her expression as she closed. As Chloe jumped up and ran towards me, I climbed the steps to the deck and said, "Shell, wait. Do not go in there. I need to tell you something." "Wait." I could still hear their conversation through the closed screen. Sheldon gasped, "What are you doing here?" He tried to calm Sarah down, but she was very agitated. "I'm telling you, something is wrong," she replied. "He slept in the guest bedroom last night and went without saying anything to me this morning. This was an error, Mark. I'll need more time to bring him on board. Knowing that he finds Chloe attractive, we will simply allow her to pursue him. I love my spouse, and I'm not going to jeopardize my marriage or my children over this. You can talk him into it." He told her, "We have seen how he looks at Chloe. Don't develop cold feet right now, we've already discussed this a dozen times. And you want to do this?" "Yes, I loved it, but I do not want to lose anything. If he has sex with Chloe, he is unable to say anything. We'll just swap every now and again. You might as well do so while you're here. Can I tell you? You want it, yes, but not too horrible. If she ever found out about this, he would die. I am not going to do it, Mark." When I looked inside, I noticed that they were in the living room. He pulled her in close to give her a kiss. After a minute of protesting, she allowed him to kiss her. I shot a quick movie and a few pictures. She reached around to stop him as he was slipping down her dress's zipper. I had had enough. The sound of the screen collapsing caused them to leap aside, and I passed through. Sarah was screaming, "No, my God, no, Sheldon, this is not what you expected." "Thank you, Shell, I'm so sorry." Mark retreated as fast as he could, but I continued to move in their direction. I simply strolled by them towards the entrance. Sarah came running to me and embraced me from behind. "Please, Shell, let us just go home. This is not as it appears. I vow to explain when we get home." Without saying anything more, I turned to leave and went inside the Ultima. They all three came out and made an effort to find me. I gave Marcus the keys back and drove it back to the office. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. I disregarded it. About 5 minutes later, my secretary stormed in. She said, "Your wife is on line 3. I informed her that I was unavailable. I stared at my computer screen for the rest of the afternoon. 5 minutes later I got the call, "Your sister-in-law is on the phone." That I had put her through. I said, "What do you want, Chloe?" She asked, "Will we have to talk about this? Why are you not at home? You need to talk to Sarah. She can explain anything. Mark and I will be there too. We'll discuss it like sensible adults. This is your brother and wife, Shell. You should calm down. Why do people always tell you to calm down when they mess with you and annoy you?" That infuriated me even more. I told her, "I don't have a brother." If the hole is still in my house when I turn, Walter will be furious. If I see you there, I will slap you all the way out the door. Do not let me see you or hear your voice again, Chloe. You tell him that if he sees me, he should run. I terminated the call. It was my father in 20 minutes. He said, Sheldon, what's going on? They say you've been threatening them, but your brother and Chloe are here. When Sarah called, she was sobbing and agitated. I was unable to understand her. What did you do, Sarah? Sarah is screwing Mark, and he and Chloe were planning to entice me into a wife swap, Dad. I don't have a brother. If I hear that you have allowed any of the three of them into your home after today, I do not have a father. If Mom invites them in or if either of you ever mentions their names to me, I will not have a father or mother. Yes, what? You elevated the a-hole, and now it's time to choose a side. I hung up as he started to bluster, saying, yeah, you will not have grandkids either. You cannot communicate with me. When Maria came in, she asked me a question, but I couldn't understand her. She said with more force, Sheldon, I asked you a question. I got going. Sorry, Maria, what have you said? Are you okay? She inquired. My cheeks were filled with tears, which I was unable to control. Approaching me, she put her arm around my shoulders. She inquired, did someone die? I'm so sorry, Sheldon, who did it? I sobbed and buried my face in my hands as I told her, I think it was my marriage and family. 10 years of my life passed before my eyes. I had 10 lovely years with the woman I loved. I believe the woman loved me. She asked me, did she sleep with him? I think so, I replied. She'd do it again today. She believed I was on board and wanted to call things off. Why would she do that, Maria? I adored her with every cell in my body. I'd have died for her. How could she do this to her daughters? What did the 2 small kids do to deserve this? Sheldon, please go home and speak to her, she replied. Find out the answers to those questions. You won't be able to rest comfortably until you do. Get away from here. I gave her a hug. She seemed hurt and said, thank you, Maria, you are a good friend. Please do not tell anyone about this. I apologized, and she gave me another hug. Jesus, Sheldon, how could you say that? You know I will not tell anyone. I understand you're upset. Just go home and try to figure it out. My phone has been going off since I returned to the office, and it rang on the way home until I switched it off when I parked in the garage. Sarah ran out. I took a moment to gather myself, and she remained by the door. She pounded her fist against the window. Sheldon, just come out and talk to me, please. I ask you, just let me speak to you. She tried to give me a hug when I opened the door. I shoved her off. I think she was taken aback. I was not a violent man, and in our entire relationship, I had never given her the finger in anger. I told Sarah not to touch me. She started crying and said, you make me feel like taking a shower. Okay, I will not. Please come inside, Shell, and let me talk to you. You must wait until the girls arrive home, I advised her. We end the conversation when they get home and pretend everything is fine. Do you understand? They're not involved. If you disturb them in any manner, we'll end the conversation. She sobbed, that is not enough time. Can we talk again after they've gone to bed? I'm not sure, I uttered. It depends on what you say between now and when I go to pick them up. You have an hour and a half. Make the most of it, she said. I followed her into the living room, where she sat on the sofa and patted the seat next to her, saying, please, could we just sit down? She started crying again when I sat in the recliner across from the coffee table, and she put her hands over her face. I waited while sitting. You're wasting time, I told her at last. She went to the bar to get a towel, which she used to wipe her face before returning to her seat. She sobbed so hard she was barely able to speak. Shell, I apologize so much, she said. I made a major error. I never imagined you would find out. I really love you. Your romantic relationship has the odor of rotting tuna, therefore, you ought to discuss something logical, I replied. Please, don't be that way, she pleaded. It sounds quite cheap and nasty. It's cheap and nasty, I retorted. There's no way to wrap it in a ribbon. That's what you were doing. You would have done it today if I hadn't stopped you. I never meant to have sex with him, it simply happened by accident. I'm so sorry, she said with greater tears. I'm not sure what I was thinking, Shell. I was a wild child before our marriage, you are aware of this. I knew Mark before I knew you. I slept with him several times after he met Chloe. We continued to meet on occasion, the three of us. I know you think she's attractive, Shell. I believed we could all. I needed to do was screwing him. I fulfilled my obligations to her. No, I simply wanted us all to love one another, we could all get together. I wanted to involve you, Shell, I assure you. I reminded her, you have a scheduled sex session this afternoon. She sobbed. No, I told him I wouldn't do it. Yes, because you assumed I knew. What if I hadn't realized? I inquired. It doesn't matter, you knew. How did you know? What difference does it make? I said. Trying to maintain my composure, I said, you intended to sabotage that creepy person. Do you understand what that means for you, Sarah? Please, Shell, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I didn't expect it to turn out like this. It doesn't have to be this awful, it may be fine. I will still be with you. You can have sex with Chloe, she said in a broken voice. I rushed to the bathroom and puked as soon as I felt bile rise in my throat. She tried to give me a washcloth and pet me while I was gone for a moment. After pushing her away, I cleaned my mouth. We went back and took a seat. Are you listening to what you just said? I responded. It can be fun. You're going to say that it was just sex the next thing, I said, sounding increasingly frustrated. Jesus Christ, Sarah, do you realize what a dumb cliché you've become? Which makes me want to slap the snot out of you. Yes, slap me, Shell. I won't say anything. I am worthy of a slap, punishment, or any other action you deem fit. Please forgive me. I didn't expect you to find out. I never considered how much this would upset you until I assumed you knew, she begged. When did you depart last night with the girls? I responded. I knew there was something wrong, and when you refused to sleep in our bed, I knew you were in terrible pain. I knew you had found out. I wanted to inform you and apologize, but you refused to let me in. I woke up early to tell you and ask your forgiveness, but you left before I had an opportunity. I should have waited until then. Please, Shell, I beg you, she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. She trembled and I heard her ask, do you still love me? Damn you, Sarah. How can you ask me that after what you did? I adored you yesterday morning and last week and over the past 10 years, that did not cease. Did you do it? How the hell do you want me to trust you after that? How do you expect me to believe what you say? I asked. I'm not sure, she sobbed. I need back your trust. I'll prove that you can believe me. I will do anything. Please tell me what you want me to do. Do you want to have sex with Chloe or anyone else? I will not say anything. Please allow me to earn a chance. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This was a mistake. Have you never made a mistake? She begged. Yes, I've made plenty of mistakes. I make mistakes every day, I said. I failed to pay my cable payment last week. I spilled paint on the garage floor. I did not forget that I was married, neither did you. This was not an error, this was treason. A mistake would be to think he was me, Sarah. I don't know how to get over this, you tell me how to get over this. I'm not sure, she cried. I'm willing to do anything, though. We can get assistance. I'll go to counseling. I will wear a bracelet. I'm going to quit my job. I'm desperate, Shell. I never intended to hurt you. I don't want to lose the females over this. Please give me an opportunity to solve it. My God, the girls, I said. I've got to go get them cleaned up, Sarah. If you aren't under control by the time I return, I swear to God that I'll kick you out of the house. Not a hint. Do you understand? Yes, I will take a bath. I'll be okay, I promise. Can we talk again after they've gone to bed? She asked. You cannot make a promise to me, Sarah. I'm sorry. Don't you make any commitments to me, I shouted. You discarded the single pledge that matters, abandoning all others. Do you recall the promise? She just collapsed. Yes, I'm so sorry I forgot, Shell. Can we speak later? Yes, we can. I'm going now. Get your head straight, Sarah. I was 10 minutes late to pick up the girls. I pulled up to the school, and I noticed them sitting on a bench outside. There was a woman sitting between them, her arms wrapped around them. She was a young woman of indeterminate race, possibly Hispanic and black. She looked like she was in her mid-20s. As I approached, I felt the full force of the collision. This woman was really stunning. She appeared tall and slim, with the whitest, warmest brown eyes I had ever seen. A mop of glossy hair on top of her head framed one of the most stunning faces I'd ever seen, flecked with gold. Her skin had a light coffee tone and was immaculate. She smiled as I approached, and her face shone like a lighthouse. Her teeth flashed as she nudged the girls. They looked up and saw me approaching. They leaped up and flew through the grass. An avalanche of little girls hit me. You're late, Father, Camber said. I apologize, baby, I lost track of time. This won't happen again. It's okay, Carmen said. Miss Brooks remained with us. She stood up from the bench, captivating me as she approached and held out her hand. My name is Carly Brooks, Mr. Clanton, she added. I adore your girls, Sheldon. I'm very happy to have them in my room. I took her hand. She had long, slender fingers that felt cool and gentle against my palm. I realized I was holding on for too long and dropped her hand awkwardly. Thank you so much for waiting with them. I'm deeply sorry, Miss Brooks, I could barely speak. This woman was a walking wet nightmare. She was wearing a white blouse with the first two buttons undone. There was an acre of smooth brown cleavage inside there. Her melons were simply magnificent. It was nearly impossible to look at her face. She inhaled, and I could see the wobble and sway of her lovely breasts. She saw my bewilderment. I swear 2 small bumps appeared on the ends of those mountains, Carly corrected me. Sheldon, do you think I could speak with you for a minute? Could you girls please wait in the car for a minute? I asked. Just for a minute. They hugged their teacher and walked to the car holding hands. She grinned after they left. I hope you are very proud of them, she added. They're the sweetest students at this school. That's why I wanted to talk with you. They were upset this morning. They told me their mother was crying this morning and had sobbed all the way to school before dropping them off. Is everything okay at home? Was there a death in the family or something? I swore to myself. No, Carly, everything is not fine. It will be, and I will ensure that this never happens again. Their mother and I are having a tough time. I'll make sure they stay out of it. I'm deeply sorry. Is this something you can discuss with me? She asked. I'm a fantastic listener and will do anything for those tiny females. Thank you, but I'm unable to speak right now, I told her. It's very painful, and I don't know where this is headed yet. I appreciate it, however. Maybe I'll inform you when everything is running smoothly, but it hurts too much right now. Her hand reached out, and her fingers lightly brushed my jawline. I realized she was quite tall, her eyes were nearly level with mine, and I'm 6 feet 3 inches. She smiled, her arm dropped, and she returned to the building. I watched her for a moment. One of the most remarkable buttocks I've ever observed was flexing beneath that gray skirt. She embodied poetry in motion. When she noticed me looking over her shoulder, she grinned. My cheeks turned red, and I went to the car. I felt her fingers on my cheek for hours. The kids spoke pleasantly until we were almost home. "Daddy," Carmen explained, "that Mom was crying this morning. Were you cruel to her?" I laughed. "Perhaps a little bit. I will not do that again, okay?" "Okay," she nodded. "I don't like seeing her sad. Bree dislikes it as well." "I understand," I said. "People just argue occasionally, you know. I'll try to be friendlier." "You're always nice to us," she said. Sarah was still in the bathroom when we arrived home, but when she came out, she seemed normal. Her eyes were a little swollen, but she smiled and hugged the girls. We had a great meal, and they sat on the floor at our feet while we watched television. It was a wonderful interlude, but I was dreading going to bed. I read to them and kissed them good night. Sarah was watching from the doorway with a sorrowful expression on her face. She departed when I turned out the light and was waiting at the foot of the stairs. "Would you like to converse in bed?" she asked. "I am not sleeping with you. They will notice if you don't." "Do not do this," I said. "She will allow me to feel as good as I can. I need you to hold me. I needed you to not be a never mind. I can't do it myself." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I laid on my back, looking up at the ceiling. I could feel the bed shake. I realized she was still crying. "Shell, would you like to make love?" "I will let you do as you want," her voice cracked. "Jesus Christ, you were pathetic. Do you believe my brain is in my dick?" I exploded. "I'm heading to the extra bedroom," I said. She grabbed my arm. "Please, Shell, I apologize. Do not go, please, chat with me. I will not touch you. I'm so sorry I forgot, Shell. Can we speak later?" "Yes, we can. I'm going now. Get your head straight, Sarah." I was 10 minutes late to pick up the girls. I pulled up to the school, and I noticed them sitting on a bench outside. There was a woman sitting between them, her arms wrapped around them. She was a young woman of indeterminate race, possibly Hispanic and black. She looked like she was in her mid-20s. As I approached, I felt the full force of the collision. This woman was really stunning. She appeared tall and slim, with the whitest, warmest brown eyes I had ever seen. A mop of glossy hair on top of her head framed one of the most stunning faces I'd ever seen, flecked with gold. Her skin had a light coffee tone and was immaculate. She smiled as I approached, and her face shone like a lighthouse. Her teeth flashed as she nudged the girls. They looked up and saw me approaching. They leaped up and flew through the grass. An avalanche of little girls hit me. "You're late, Father," Camber said. "I apologize, baby, I lost track of time. This won't happen again." "It's okay," Carmen said. Miss Brooks remained with us. She stood up from the bench, captivating me as she approached and held out her hand. "My name is Carly Brooks, Mr. Clanton," she added. "I adore your girls, Sheldon. I'm very happy to have them in my room." I took her hand. She had long, slender fingers that felt cool and gentle against my palm. I realized I was holding on for too long and dropped her hand awkwardly. "Thank you so much for waiting with them." "I'm deeply sorry, Miss Brooks," I could barely speak. This woman was a walking wet nightmare. She was wearing a white blouse with the first 2 buttons undone. There was an acre of smooth brown cleavage inside there. Her melons were simply magnificent. It was nearly impossible to look at her face. She inhaled, and I could see the wobble and sway of her lovely breasts. She saw my bewilderment. "I swear 2 small bumps appeared on the ends of those mountains," Carly corrected me. "Sheldon, do you think I could speak with you for a minute? Could you girls please wait in the car for a minute?" I asked. "Just for a minute." They hugged their teacher and walked to the car holding hands. She grinned after they left. "I hope you are very proud of them," she added. "They're the sweetest students at this school." That's why I wanted to talk with you. They were upset this morning. They told me their mother was crying this morning and had sobbed all the way to school before dropping them off. Is everything okay at home? Was there a death in the family or something? I swore to myself. No, Carly, everything is not fine. It will be, and I will ensure that this never happens again. Their mother and I are having a tough time. I'll make sure they stay out of it. I'm deeply sorry. Is this something you can discuss with me? She asked. I'm a fantastic listener and will do anything for those tiny females. Thank you, but I'm unable to speak right now, I told her. It's very painful, and I don't know where this is headed yet. I appreciate it, however. Maybe I'll inform you when everything is running smoothly, but it hurts too much right now. Her hand reached out, and her fingers lightly brushed my jawline. I realized she was quite tall, her eyes were nearly level with mine, and I'm 6 feet 3 inches. She smiled, her arm dropped, and she returned to the building. I watched her for a moment. One of the most remarkable buttocks I've ever observed was flexing beneath that gray skirt. She embodied poetry in motion. When she noticed me looking over her shoulder, she grinned. My cheeks turned red, and I went to the car. I felt her fingers on my cheek for hours. The kids spoke pleasantly until we were almost home. Daddy, Carmen explained, that Mom was crying this morning. Were you cruel to her? I laughed. Perhaps a little bit. I will not do that again, okay? Okay, she nodded. I don't like seeing her sad. Bree dislikes it as well. I understand, I said. People just argue occasionally, you know. I'll try to be friendlier. You're always nice to us, she said. Sarah was still in the bathroom when we arrived home, but when she came out, she seemed normal. Her eyes were a little swollen, but she smiled and hugged the girls. We had a great meal, and they sat on the floor at our feet while we watched television. It was a wonderful interlude, but I was dreading going to bed. I read to them and kissed them good night. Sarah was watching from the doorway with a sorrowful expression on her face. She departed when I turned out the light and was waiting at the foot of the stairs. Would you like to converse in bed? She asked. I am not sleeping with you. They will notice if you don't. Do not do this, I said. She will allow me to feel as good as I can. I need you to hold me. I needed you to not be a never mind. I can't do it myself. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I laid on my back, looking up at the ceiling. I could feel the bed shake. I realized she was still crying. Shell, would you like to make love? I will let you do as you want, her voice cracked. Jesus Christ, you were pathetic. Do you believe my brain is in my dick? I exploded. I'm heading to the extra bedroom, I said. She grabbed my arm. Please, Shell, I apologize. Do not go, please, chat with me. I will not touch you. I left them with their mouths wide open. My mind was spinning. JN and Alicia's arrival had only delayed the conversation with Sophie, leaving me reeling. Obviously, another event had occurred and Sophie was aware of it. Sarah assured her she'd tell me about it, but she didn't. This portrayed the situation even more negatively. So, what was I going to do? Driving my baby always gives me at least a moment of peace, and I got on the freeway headed north. There wasn't much traffic, so I opened the Hemi up somewhat. I looked down, and I was doing 85. It felt nice. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a new yellow Mustang GT behind me. He was considerably too close for the speed we were driving, and that irritated me. I pressed my foot down, and the massive Hemi howled, the supercharger ignited, propelling me forward with the force of a rocket launch. That engine consumes 1.5 gallons of gas every minute at full power, and the 650 ft-lbs of torque twisted those wheels like a freight train. The Mustang began to slip back right away. It stayed in there until we reached 120, but when I reached 150, there was just a yellow dot back there. I pulled off at the next exit. I needed gas, and there was a convenience shop nearby. I drove up to the pump and swiped my credit card. I heard a nice-sounding engine come up on the other side of the pumps, but I didn't pay any attention. "Sheldon, is that you?" I heard a woman's voice calling. I looked back and saw that yellow Mustang parked there. Carly Brooks was exciting. She walked down the stairs toward me. She wore a button-up shirt and pants. I saw she was wearing white flip-flops, and her toenails were painted the same yellow as her automobile. She simply looked jaw-dropping. "Miss Brooks, why are you not teaching my daughters how to conjugate verbs?" I laughed. She moved up close and leaned against the column. "I took a personal day," she explained. "I assumed it was your automobile that sped past me back there. I attempted to catch you on wave. Jesus, that thing is hot." "I didn't realize you were a car girl," I said. "You have a nice pony there. Is it stock?" "No, I've put a lot of effort into it." "I can't believe you simply walked away and left me like that. This is the baddest muscle automobile ever made." I did tell her, however, that I liked the Mustang. "What are you doing outside?" "I resigned here." "How about you?" "I'm just trying to let off some steam," I informed her. The tough area I mentioned had turned into a mountain, and all I needed was to clear some confusion from my mind. "Driving at such high speeds may have landed us both in jail," she laughed. "How about I buy you a cup of coffee, and you blow some of that fog my way?" "Miss Brooks, I do not believe you want to hear about my troubles," I told her. "I told you to call me Carly," she explained. "Come on, there is a Starbucks down the block. I will tell you a story, and you can tell me one." "Okay," I agreed, and pumped her gas. I followed her, and we went inside. I ordered my regular triple espresso, and she received some sort of latte with a lot of foam. She took a sip and glanced up at me. I couldn't stop giggling. "I have a mustache, right?" she grinned. "Yes," I cleaned it up with a napkin. Her large brown eyes had a unique expression. "What's up with you? Why were you driving so quickly?" Driving fast is to me what shots of whiskey are to others. When I'm upset, I'll go for a drive or run. It relieves stress and allows me to think more clearly. "Why did you need to get a shot?" "I am not trying to pry, you just seem like you could use someone to chat with." "Carly, are you married?" "No, I had a prior engagement." "Would you mind telling me why you are no longer engaged?" "Yes, but if you're burdening me, it's only fair." She sipped her latte, and I could tell she was processing. "Idea is, I can't do this," she finally admitted. "I apologize, Sheldon. I need to go." She stood up, and I could see tears flowing down her cheeks. I rose up and headed towards her. I shoved her back down into the booth and slid in beside her. She protested, but I ignored her. I kept one of her long, slender hands in mind. "I am deeply sorry, Carly. I did not mean to upset you. You do not have to tell me anything if you do not want to. I was not negotiating a bargain, I was only looking for a place to start." "It's fine. If you don't let me out, I am going to slide under the table." "I'm sorry, Sheldon, but I can't do this right now. It is too painful for me." I let her out, and she stood up and hugged me. Those delicious titties jabbed me in the chest, and I became as hard as an iron rod in 2 seconds. "I just need to go." "I'm sorry I couldn't help you." "It's okay. Will you allow me to buy you another cup of coffee sometime? I vow not to make you weep." Before I can make a girl cry, she usually has to get to know me. She let out a moist, tiny laugh. "It wasn't you." "Yes, call me sometime, Sheldon. I love your girls. I know you are a terrific father." She slipped away, and the small yellow Mustang chirped its tires when she pulled away. It was time to pick up the girls, so I went and collected them. They finished their schoolwork, and we went out to Red Lobster. They were eating that unending shrimp thing we all adored, shrimp. By the time we finished, our table resembled a shrimp graveyard. The next day came with a 5 kilometers event which I had planned to postpone because Sarah would not be present and I'd promised to work. They seated us at a table around the 3K markers, and we had water and Gatorade on a little table. When the runners arrived, they could grab a bottle and carry it with them. There was supposed to be an additional worker there, but they hadn't arrived yet. For a while, I could hear the automobile approaching, but trees blocked our view of the road. I was surprised when that little yellow pony pulled up, and Carly got out. She appeared gorgeous. She was dressed in yellow boy shorts and a t-shirt, which did little to conceal her beautiful breasts. They arrived from the automobile a few minutes ahead of the rest. She paused for a moment when she noticed us sitting at the table. When the girls saw her, they shrieked and rushed over to hug her. They grasped her hands and let her pass. I could tell she was uneasy. "Hello, Carly," I greeted her. "How did we get so lucky?" She grinned and relaxed. "The reward for goodness," she smiled. We were all chatting happily for a while when I heard a vehicle approaching. It was a massive Ford pickup, you know, the ones where men can advertise the size of their masculinity, or lack thereof. This was a massive one, so the owner must have used a massive tool. The door must have been 5 feet above the earth. I recognized it. It belonged to the baseball coach. He was the aging high school athletic hero. Everyone recognizes the type. His golden days as a top athlete, approximately 15 years earlier, had positioned him, in his own mind, as God's gift to the world, particularly to women. He had a shaved head and was about 6 foot tall. He worked out, you could tell, and he walked with his arms practically parallel to the ground, demonstrating his strength. His name was Hawk, Falcon, or one of those raptor-like birds. He swaggered up to the table calmly. "How are you all doing today, honey?" "Mr. Carrier. I will not tell you again not to address me by my first name. We are not friends, and if you call me honey one more time, I'll file a complaint that you're creating a hostile work environment." His jaw fell. "Are you some type of dyke?" He was quite angry. In fact, that could be the only reason a lady would not drop to her knees in front of him. "Your wife did not complain when I licked her," Carly remarked. "She felt my tongue was larger than your meat." He drew his hand back. Back. I stood up, and he looked at me. He probably had me by 20 pounds in 10 years, but he was a bully. Bullies dislike surprises. He didn't recognize me, so he returned and got in his pickup. "I'm sorry I said that," she added. "That dude has been bothering me ever since I came here, and I was sick of it." "That is no excuse." "I'm deeply sorry." He hugged her. "That is okay, Miss Brooks. We don't like him anyway. He closely monitors the teenage female members of his track team. Hek creepy." Carly stared at me, and we both erupted into laughter. "Please remind me not to upset you," I told her. "You've got a cruel streak." The first runners arrived, keeping us occupied for a considerable amount of time. I asked the girls if they wanted to take Carly out to eat wings afterward, and they were thrilled. She agreed to go with us, and we returned home to clean up. I know a place that serves some of the greatest wings on the globe. An old friend of mine operated a restaurant named Hackett's. He was an elderly black man from Memphis who knew how to prepare wings. We had a great time, and I did not want it to stop. A moment of being human while Carly and the girls distracted me from Sarah was enjoyable, but it could not last. When I came home, I found a dozen missed calls from her on my phone. I had turned it off all day, and when I turned it on, it lit up like a Christmas tree. I got the girls into bed and called her. "Shell," she said, "I need to talk to you." "Can I come over?" "Don't you have a date?" I asked her. "Is the hallway too crowded?" she sobbed. "Please let me come over, Sheldon." I could explain. "Okay, come on," I said. I ended the call, and 30 minutes later, I heard her key in the door. I had some primary considerations about replacing the locks. When she walked in, she looked like a wreck. She attempted to hug me, but I resisted and extended my hand. "Sarah, I swear to God, if you touch me, I will puke on you," I informed her. She was sobbing instantly, and she came over and sat down. Can I simply speak to you? She wept. Let me just get this out. I sat across the table from her. Again, she stared at the floor. I understand what Sophie said. Her voice was so quiet that I couldn't hear her. So you've decided to come clean? I asked her. Yes, I didn't want to tell you beforehand. I expected you to dislike me. She caught me. Shell, she threatened to tell you if I did not. I promised her I would, but I couldn't. You were overjoyed, and I couldn't bear to imagine how it would make you feel. The answer was simply no. I will not say it. I had been drinking. We attended the girls' Christmas party at school one night. The children had all gone home, and you went with them. We began drinking. You know how it is at the Catholic schools. Even Father Peter was inebriated. Mark and Chloe were present. I simply started talking to him. He kept telling me how tough I was. Do you realize how long it has been since someone else told me that, Shell? I feel like I am getting old. My breasts are slightly sagging, and my posterior is not as firm as it once was. I grow hair in unusual places, and I don't think I'm as attractive as I once was. Throughout the years, how many men have initiated sexual advances toward me? I like it when men think I'm hot. I've danced with them, and they attempted to fill me up. I occasionally gave in to their advances. I always knew that at the end of the night I would return home to you, and you would have sex with me until I walked away. It just made me happy to know that men wanted my pants. They weren't going to get there, but it made me happy that they wanted to. Barbara Jansen was present. Do you remember her? We were seniors, and she was a freshman at the time. She was a lovely little blonde who always believed she was exceptional. She married one of the teachers from the girls' school. She mentioned something to me about looking old. I was inebriated, and it truly wounded my feelings. Then Mark approached and asked if I wanted to dance. He was as pleasant and handsome as ever, and he kept telling me how attractive I was. He kept telling me how great it was to be back at school. I was drunk as hell, and I let him coax me into stepping outside on the back porch. It was really silly, but I felt extremely exposed. I gave him a large shell. I'm so sorry. I was disgusted with myself after doing it. I couldn't believe I was the type of person to do anything like that. I let him feel me up and gave him a BJ. I did not have intercourse with Sheldon. My intention was to demonstrate to that I was capable of seizing a handsome man as a way of repaying her. I'm so sorry. Sophie and her date came out on the porch and spotted me. She threatened to inform you. She referred to me by a variety of names and declared that my antics regarding your company were absurd. She said if I told you, she wouldn't mention it. I could not tell you. I felt so humiliated, and I was frightened you'd abandon me. I told her what I had told you, and you have forgiven me. I wish I'd told you that's when it all began. Shell, I screwed up. I'm a foolish witch who messed up. I am truly sorry. I despise myself. Furthermore, I am uncertain of my way forward. If I have caused you to despise me, I've never loved anyone besides you. I never will. Please, Shell, do not hate me. Please forgive me. I pledge to God that if you let me make this up to you, I would work as hard as a slave. I will do everything you say. Please do not abandon me. Please do not take my girls from me. What can I do? I'll do anything. I know you will never accept it. Sarah, I'm not sure what you can do, I said. I didn't have time to decide what I was going to do. How can I trust you? You have lied to me countless times. You told me you were working late while shaking your explosives and drilling a hole. What happens if I forgive you, but you have to work late one day? What should I consider? How will I stop worrying if you're screwing a guy or giving him a BJ? How does this work? She was crying uncontrollably. I don't know, Shell. I only know that I adore you and the girls. And I see what I have done. I understand how my foolishness has hurt our family, Shell. I no longer want to have sex with anyone other than you. I've just gone insane. You are a great lover, but remembering what we did back then made me extremely horny. It should be easy for me. I've received the message. What would you like to do? Do you still love me? That's the problem, Sarah. I still love you. I'm not sure if you ever loved me. I'm not sure I believe you on anything. No, I am certain I don't. I have assumed that everything you tell me is a lie. Are you coming clean with me? I will never know, and I doubt I will ever believe anything you tell me. Here is your chance. If you're hiding something, you should tell me right now. It will not make a difference. I could not be more upset with you than I am right now. This is your one chance. I swear to God that I'm being truthful, she said. There's nothing else. I love you, Sheldon. I do not love anyone else, and I never have. I did it. It was just, do not mention it, Sarah. I interrupted her. You intended to cheat, and you did cheat, I said. It was not, no, okay, I understand. You don't want to hear it. I just want you to understand that it didn't mean anything to me. I'm not in love with Mark or Chloe. It was simply fantastic sex. I assumed you'd like to join us. I see now that you never would, and that was a mistake. Well, that meant something to me, I told her. The fact that it meant nothing to you is the problem. What would it mean to you if I drilled a stranger? It's not exactly what she stated, she said. We were planning to involve you. You were planning to have sex with Chloe. She is hot for you, Sheldon. This is exactly what I told her. Screw this. This will not work if you try to avoid accountability and belittle your actions, I said. I'm going to see a lawyer tomorrow, Sarah. I recommend you do the same. Why? She asked. Why should I see a lawyer before filing for divorce? You will need it, I told her. She emitted a small screech and collapsed. I did not say anything. She wept for nearly 5 minutes before speaking. I do not want a divorce, she wept. Thank you, Shell. Why do you want to get a divorce? I promised you I would do anything. You want to admit how terribly you messed up. I told her you were attempting to make excuses and minimize your cheating as if it weren't anything, I said. No, I am not, she complained. I can tell how much this has wounded you, and I'm deeply sorry. I'm just trying to make you understand that I only love you. They meant nothing to me. You're my man. Thus, you intended to betray me in favor of individuals who had no significance in your life. Is this what you are telling me? Are you trying to reassure me? I asked. I'm not sure what I'm saying, she wept. I will say whatever you want me to. I'm just trying to say anything to get another chance. I want you to forgive me. Please tell me what you want me to say. How about, I apologize, Sheldon. I screwed up, and it will never happen again? I suggested. Yes, I apologize. I messed up, and I will not do it again. Can I please return home? Shall I? I am dying without you. It kills me that I can't be with the girls. I will do anything. I will sleep in the extra bedroom. I will be your slave. I will cook and clean. You can use me in whatever way you want. You can have girlfriends or do whatever it takes to get over this. I might have. I told her, did you know I met someone I'm really interested in? I was terrified of that. She explained, go on a date with her. Bring her over here, and I'll cook for you. I'm as serious as I can be, Shell. I would do anything to be a part of your life. If you want me to serve the food and treat her nice, that's okay. I just want to live with you and the girls. If you want to have sex with me, we will simply be sex buddies. Please give me a chance to win you back. I will never have another man for the rest of my life. If you want to exact retribution or punish me, I know I deserve it. I will take my lumps and never complain. Please give me a chance. Let me think about it, I told her. I'll call you tomorrow and let you know my decision. Don't say anything to the girls, okay? No, I will not. I will do everything you say, she replied. Thank you for speaking with me, Sheldon. I understand. I do not even deserve that you are a good man, but I am taking advantage of you. I apologize, but I can't help it. Being away from my family is killing me inside. Maybe you should have thought about that. No, forget it. I will not beat you up. I told you I needed you to talk to some people. Sarah, pastors, rabbis, counselors, or whatever. I don't believe you have the correct moral compass. Will you do that? Yes, I'll do anything, she replied. She departed, and I lay awake much of the night, thinking. I didn't want her back. The idea that she couldn't take what she had done seriously, and that it meant nothing to her, messed with my head. How could I bring her back when she saw nothing wrong with what she did? Her sole regret was upsetting me and almost losing her family. Her actions were a complete mess on numerous levels. I wasn't sure where to start. The trouble was with the girls. How could I mend my babies' lives if I kicked their mother to the curb? I fell off to sleep, still unsure what I should do. I gained some clarity in the morning. The daughters adored their mother, and she was an excellent mother. They did not deserve any of this, and I needed to make their lives as enjoyable as possible. I was positive that living with 3 or 4 cheaters was bad for them. I called into work and requested a day off. When the girls awoke, I informed them that I was taking them out of school so we could chat. It was the most painful conversation of my life. I didn't inform them that their mother cheated 3 or 4 times. I basically told them that we needed to resolve certain difficulties. She wouldn't be living with us, and we were trying to work through our issues. They wailed as if someone had died. They initially accused me of damaging everything, but when I explained that I had done nothing, they figured it out. Did Mom do anything wrong, Daddy? Did she cheat on you? Kimber asked. I'm not going to say anything nasty about your mother, I told them. How much she loves you, you should not blame her for anything. This has nothing to do with you, gals. You are the best chicks I could possibly imagine. We both love you with all of our hearts. Please give me a chance to figure this out, I said. They reluctantly consented, and we spoke for quite a while. I called Sarah, and we agreed to meet for lunch. She was upset when I told her I wanted some space. I get enraged whenever I look at you, Sarah, I told her. Keep away from me. I have resolved that I will never forget what you did. You may have cost me any relationship with my family. Sarah, I'm divorcing you. I'll let you view the females whenever you want. We have a prenuptial agreement that states that if any of us cheat, the innocent person will keep the house. You will not be struggling financially. I'll make sure of it. The witch appeared to play. She called me every name in the book, promised to turn the females against me, and defeat me in court. I wished her well and walked away. Carly phoned me after school because she was concerned about the girls. She saw they weren't at school and became really concerned. I assured her that they were fine, and she asked if she could come over on Saturday and chat with me. On Saturday, there was a vehicle event, and I had planned to participate. I asked her to go, and she agreed. Sarah picked up the girls in the morning while I went to pick up Carly. She was as stunning as ever. She wore the tightest pants I'd ever seen around her bum. Jiggling in those pants was enough to give a dead man a hard time, especially with her large tits swinging under her button-up shirt and no bra to restrict them. It made it difficult for me to speak. My throat felt dry all the time. We had a 50-minute drive and spoke a lot. She eventually broke down and told me her story. She had become engaged to a businessman in the town where she grew up. They met at high school and fell in love. She was quite happy, but she assumed she had overlooked some clear signals. After catching her fiancé in the cloakroom with one of her bridesmaids at the wedding, she departed without saying anything to anyone and drove away. She had never contacted anyone from her hometown again. She ended up in our town and took a job teaching at the school where the daughters attended. She was visibly unhappy, and the memories were still vivid and terrible for her. I understood exactly how she felt. I told her what was going on between Sarah and me. When I finished talking, her eyes were filled with tears, and mine were also a little moist. She leaned forward and rested her head on my shoulder. Her hair was simply a giant mop. There were curls approximately a foot long that sprang up in every direction. It was the most attractive thing I'd ever seen. My phone buzzed after we arrived at the show, and it was Mom. "Sheldon, we should sit down and chat. I'm calling a family meeting. Gail and Helen are traveling down, and we will meet at the house." "Is everyone going to be there?" I asked. "Your brother has something he has to tell you." "I told you what would happen. Do not call me again." "It's Mom, Sheldon." "Don't act like that," she implored. "Okay, he will not be there. Will you come?" "Hold on a minute," I told her. Carly was trying to attract my attention. "Talk to them, Sheldon. It is the only way to move on." "Have you spoken to your family?" I asked her. She smiled. "No, but I realize I should, and so should you." "Okay, Mom, when is the meeting?" I asked. "Tonight's dinner is at 6 p.m. "No dinner." "I'll be there at 7:30, I ended the call. I had a fantastic time with Carly, and she held my hand while we looked around the course. We talked a lot on the way home, and I asked if she could come over later so I could fill her in. She promised, and I dropped her off at her residence. I was terrified of this. I tried to eat a little when I got back to my empty house. I took a couple of antacids because it just made my stomach sick. I took out the old charger and gave it a try. Something just felt right. It calmed my nerves in the rumbling. From a block away, I'm sure they heard me coming, and Mom answered the door before I did. I stood there rigid as a board as she gave me an embrace. She raised her head to face me, tears welling up in her eyes. She took my hand, carried me inside, and said nothing. Behind me, I heard the light click, and there stood Dad, brandishing a baseball bat in front of the door. "We will not allow you to break our family apart with your stubborn pride. Go ahead and set your bond down," he added. I thought, okay, this was going to be fascinating. I sat between my sisters Gail and Helen, who took up arms. With a march, the three intruders left Mom's bedroom. I turned to face Mom. "He's your brother, she's your wife. Chloe is your sister-in-law. We can get through this." "Okay, Mom, you recently lost your son and only 2 grandchildren. He's in a hole, not my brother. His wife is bisexual. That's the 3rd or 4th. I suppose that makes you Mama 3 or 4. That's the pimp over there by the door." "And what about you 2? I inquired with my sisters. "We just love you, Shell," said Jill. "We're open to whatever you want." "I want to leave. Do you want to come and stay with me tonight?" "I'd like to introduce you to someone," I replied. People started to panic. "Girls, I assumed you were going to aid Mama 3 or 4, they said. Helen responded, "Yes, we are going to help Sheldon." "What, you thought we were coming to help these people?" "Buckets," we said as we got to our feet and moved toward the door. I gave the prick a hard nut smacking. He made a bat motion, dropped his bat, and fell to the ground, letting out a little gasp of pain. I grabbed the bat, spun around, and ran from the kitchen to the back door while looking like I was dying. The witch's eyes widened and she started running after her a-hole husband when I turned to face her. Laughing, I flung back my head. "I told Mama 3 or 4 times, I am filing accusations against you for wrongful imprisonment. Don't call, do not write, do not send cards, or attempt to contact the girls. I'm getting a restraining order against each of you." She fell to her knees and began to sob hysterically. "Please, Sheldon, do not do it. I apologize, I will make it up to you." Too late, I informed her. "You had a chance, you chose a side. Good luck for the rest of your life. Too bad you'll be spending it with people who cheat on their spouses." The restraining order will apply to you as well." The girls and I left without saying anything and strolled down the driveway. I told the 3 or 4 that you are psychologically disturbed, and I will never leave the girls alone with you again. Helen went upstairs to get the twins. They looked at everyone suspiciously but said nothing. The 3 or 4 were crying frantically. "Seriously, Shell, I've always wanted to do it but you wouldn't let me," squealed Gail as I tossed her the keys. I told them, "You made the right decision. I love my little sisters. I let them drive my cars." We went to get Chinese takeout on the way home, and Helen tried to break our necks one after the other. I called Carly when we got home, and we also got her some lunch. The twins flew over and landed on her, and they each took a hand and led her to their aunt. "This is Miss Brooks, our teacher," Kimber said. "I guess she's also Daddy's girlfriend." Carly looked very beautiful, and she was blushing ferociously. "We are just friends, Kimber." I reprimanded them, saying, "Girls, that is enough. You're embarrassing our guest after they've slept with you." Carmen told her, "So, since Mom cheated, we want you to be with Daddy." A charming little chorus of "Sorry, Daddy," Helen and Gail were there too. "Will you read our book?" They led their aunts upstairs, leaving Carly and me in awkward stillness. I approached her, feeling a little scared. I grabbed her hands and pulled her in for a hug. Her curls tickled my chin, and she softened against me. "How about that, Carly?" I muttered. "Want to be my girlfriend?" She raised her head to meet mine, her massive brown eyes glittering with golden glitter. "I might," she whispered, "kiss me, and I will make a decision." Her lips were the softest, sexiest pillows I'd ever felt, and I allowed it in. I begged God. Just as I was about to take off my underwear, I felt her exquisite body pressing against mine, and she gave me a small, inscrutable moan. She pushed back slightly, judging my feelings, and then she looked back at me, her face buried in my shoulder. "So, she must have loved what she saw," she said. I said to her, "I get it. Carly, I'm not her." I refused to turn into her. "It will require some time to overcome everything," she remarked, adding, "I have the remainder of my life." She kissed me once more, making my toes curl, and I accompanied her to the pony. The next morning I went to see a lawyer, Marcy Gray. She was really unpleasant. I think she thought I was leaving my wife for a better opportunity. She was pretty short, curvaceous, and attractive, maybe 40 years old, with the largest naturally occurring breasts I had ever seen. I wanted to like her, but we got off to a bad start. "If you're here to get out of paying child support or maintenance, you should get a different attorney," was the first thing she said that irritated me. "Well, that's not my purpose for being here. But thank you for seeing me," I said as I stood up and left. I went to see her secretary to find out the cost of the appointment, and Miss Gray became very quiet. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I asked. "You can't just leave like that," she yelled. "Listen to what I have to say." "Lady, feel free to bite me, but I have no idea who the hell you think you are," I said to her. "Insults are not something I have to tolerate, especially from coworkers." "Screw it." "I apologize," she said, wiping away her tears of mirth. "I sometimes forget that there are decent men in the world." She growled like a toad frog, opening her mouth and giggling, laughing herself to tears. "I'm not sure how many assholes I see every day. That is the most someone has spoken to me in years. I sincerely apologize. Return and talk to me. Tell me what's happening." I paid her a fee and signed my name 10,000 times, and she promised to get the restraining order that afternoon and to start the divorce as soon as possible. She shook my hand and I'd allowed her to bring me back into her office, where she poured me a really nice scotch, and I told her the story, through which she became disrespectful all over again, but mostly focused on my ex-family and the 3 or 4. The 3 or 4 were served in 3 days. My family was charged with terrorist threats and unlawful restraint. The pimp was even charged with attempted assault for his act with a baseball bat. Life seemed to get better after the asshole and his wife were sentenced for purposefully causing mental distress. I had the twins with me, and we banned the 3 or 4 from being within 500 feet of each other. She was standing at the end of the street when I went outside on Saturday morning to pick up the papers. She cried, "Sheldon, please let me see my babies, please." I apologized so much. I didn't come up with the idea. "I beg you, please let me see my babies." A few neighbors came out to see what all the commotion was about. I approached her, and she fell to her knees in front of me. "Please, Sheldon, I beg you. If that's what you want, I can crawl up to the house. Permit me to see the girls, please." "Sarah, get up." I told her that she was doing herself a disservice by saying, "I don't care about myself, Shell, I know I lost you. My kids are something I can never lose. I'll stop making fun of you." I pulled her to her feet and she clung to me, saying, "Please, just give me 5 minutes to see them." I told her, "Okay, you can see them. I informed you, Sarah, that you were free to see them whenever you pleased. Then at my parents' house you pulled that prank. I swear to God, I'll finish you in one more crazy moment like that. Are you following?" "Yes, I do, and I promise not to act irrationally. Regards, Shell." "I'll be all right." The girls and I strolled back to the residence where waffles were being eaten. She bent down and gave them a hug akin to a hurricane's life preservers as they flew toward her. She was crying uncontrollably and apologizing to them repeatedly while expressing her love for them. They shed a few tears as well and expressed to her how much they missed her. We ate breakfast together at the bar, which I had prepared for her. She assured me and them that although she wouldn't live with us, she would still be their mother. They must have understood, I think, and decided to spend every other weekend with her. I gave her permission to visit at any time during the week. While we sat and talked, they went to watch TV. She began, "Sheldon, about what transpired at your parents' house, I sincerely apologize. Although I didn't want to, your mother assured me that everything could be fixed. I understand it's not feasible anymore. I understand now that I hurt you too much, but all I want is whatever relationship you can offer me. I want to have friends. Well, I know it won't happen, but that's not all I want. All I'll be is your greatest friend ever. We'll go on with our lives, me being the girl's mother. I won't fight the divorce, I signed the paperwork. The money matters are all right. I will take up residence in one of our apartments. Next week, there will be a nice opening. Sheldon, can we be co-parents and friends?" I told her, "We'll have to work on the friend part. Never mind that most of my friends don't know. Sincerely, Sarah, I promise to try. Simply put, I'm feeling a lot of hate for you right now. Most of that will probably go away with time, and we'll get along just great. I just wanted to let you know, Sarah, that we are not getting back together. I'm sure we'll be all right if you've truly given up that. You come tell me about your first date, and then I'll believe you when you say you're ready to move on. That's when we'll get to work on becoming friends, right?" Despite the tears in her eyes, she gave me a hug and nodded. It wasn't my fault that I felt sorry for her. She said she was parked down the street when I offered to take her home. She turned and looked back at the door. "I apologize," she uttered. "It makes perfect sense," I told her. "Me too. Sarah, stop apologizing all the time. You have my belief. Just let's get past this. I absolve you. I'm still angry, but I promise to get over it." She nodded and smiled and turned to walk away. She visited on Monday and Wednesday, and I allowed the girls to go out to dinner with her on Friday. Things were looking up, and it seemed like we were settling into a routine. The following week, I received a call from Marcy Gray informing me that the attorney for my ex-family had spoken with her and was interested in scheduling a meeting. She persisted that it was in everyone's best interests, so even though I declined, I went. All I asked was that there not be a hole. With unanimous consent, we took seats around Marcy's conference table. They were all very repentant and contrite. They were ready to go to almost any lengths to ensure that I would withdraw the charges against them. I told them they would also agree not to speak or contact the women again if they signed pledges to never get in touch with me or speak to me ever again. I would retract every accusation, save for the ones directed at the entire group, if the pimp permitted me to chastise him once more. Marcy found it quite entertaining, so much so that they complied with all but the final demand. Mom and Chloe concurred, but the pimp wasn't keen for some reason. It looks like he was holding a baseball bat to make himself feel better about getting his scrotum crushed. After Mom threatened to kick him, he eventually gave in. I told Marcy he should be ready, but I wasn't going to do it right away because he was choking. They quickly left after signing the paperwork. The door closed, causing Marcy to burst out laughing uncontrollably. I told her not to laugh at herself because of her huge breasts, and she quickly ran to the bathroom. She was calm when she returned, but she snapped again as soon as she saw me. She exclaimed, "Sheldon, you're such an idiot. I almost peed my pants because of you. I mean, you realize I couldn't put that in the press?" I laughed. "Yes, that's true, but I love the idea that they might be wondering if this is the day I'm coming to get your hard skunk, dude." At last, she calmed down. "Will you follow through on this?" I told her, "You have no idea what I put up with for the hold down over the years. He took my toys, which was more trouble for me than you can imagine, but since he was the infant Jesus Christ, Marcy, they were fine with it. They were okay with him taking advantage of my wife. My stubborn pride was the source of the issue. They are enough for me. I hope they all pass away hopeless and alone." "I guess I blame you," she uttered. "In 60 days, the divorce will be final. When that happens, what will you do?" "Go ahead," I told her. "I have a few things planned. Even so, I have a few plans for the entire undertaking." "You aren't going to require a criminal defense lawyer, are you?" she asked me, her gaze questioning. "Hopefully not," I said. "Are you competent?" She said, "I practice family law. I'll bail you out, however, I would need to suggest a colleague in the event of a criminal charge." I didn't think I would be charged. One night, as the jerk was leaving a bar, 3 men in masks attacked him and dragged him into an alley. They gave his genital area extra attention as they severely beat him. According to the police report, they asked him the same question over and over again, but he was unable to understand it. I guess they thought he was Dan Rather because they asked, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?" He said he had no idea who these Kenneth were or what their frequency might be, and that he didn't know any of them. At the time, I was with Sarah and the girls, and I never got asked any questions. There was a home invasion while he was at home following his discharge from the hospital, and Chloe was out of town. He was defeated by the 4 guys once more, but the question was different. They persisted in questioning him about why he wasn't donning the proper socks. Since he didn't know why the socks were required, they used his balls to play ping pong. A month later, Carly and I were out on a date. He was approached by someone in the office parking garage. He couldn't put a number on how many ASIS results he had, but they asked how often, and they didn't like his choice of socks once more. They used duct tape to cover his male member in order to remove his hair. It would be a long time before he needed waxing. When the police pulled me over, Sarah and I were at the twins' soccer match. I had perfect explanations for every attack, but it seems that husbands who are envious like to target women's genitalia. After 2 months, he had problems with his car. It had a flat tire, and he had to fix it 3 times a week for 2 weeks after work. The sidewalls had odd holes in them, maybe the size of an ice pick. When security started to notice it, it was able to hold air in its tires while at work. However, the illness returned when he entered shops or bars and left it alone for a brief period of time. Because there was naphthalene in his fuel, there were injector problems that temporarily stopped it. The mechanic deduced that the most likely cause was the mothballs in the gas tank. The mystery of how they got there persisted. A month later, he was trying to light his barbecue grill when it exploded. There was a gas, and for a while the front of his comb, his lashes, and eyebrows were missing. This string of bad luck persisted until his car's airbag suddenly burst, sending him crashing into a nearby tree. By then, of course, the airbag had popped, and he was hurt in the collision and had to return to the hospital. Seeing as how his bad luck might start to affect her, his beautiful wife Chloe filed for divorce. He accepted a job selling tires in Cleveland because he was too afraid to leave his house. Everything in my life was going great. My divorce proceeded without any problems, and I was left free. For almost a month, Carly and Sarah just walked around each other like tomcats until one day, Sarah asked her out for drinks and dancing. Sarah insisted that Carly tell me about her date. Carly mentioned that he was an accountant and went by Bob. He was really attractive and seemed like a nice guy, in her opinion. When both of the girls were present at the same time, the tension in the house decreased and they got along quite well. Following the date, I began asking Sarah out to lunch approximately once a week, and we quickly rekindled our friendship. We had a conversation about the Munchkins and my work, and I realized how much I enjoyed just chatting with her. It looked like she was doing okay. She told me she thought Bob was great. It was great that we didn't spend too much time talking about the past. I took Carly out on Saturday, the official day of the divorce, while Sarah had the girls. We made the trip to the mountains and attended a sizable community celebration. We rode a few carnival rides, ate some local cuisine, and strolled around admiring the crafts. That evening, I took her dancing. As we were leaving and we were getting along well, she beckoned me in, and I accepted without hesitation. That night, we made a lot of wild love. I saw her staring at me in the morning. "Sheldon, I'm in love with you," she mumbled as she tilted her head to face me. "Do you love me more than you can imagine?" I replied, "I feared I'd never be happy again, Carly." I was mistaken. My girls make me joyful, and you make me happy. I do love you. I think I'm the luckiest guy alive. We should send the a-hole a thank you card, she said with a smile. Well, I wouldn't go so far as that, but I'm pleased to be here with you too. We muttered things that meant everything and nothing until I fell asleep holding that beautiful woman in my arms. She moved in with me after 2 months, and the twins rode with her every day to school. I got her a ring after 6 months because I realized I wouldn't be able to live without her. I was amazed at how excited the girls were when I told them I was going to ask them to marry me. They worshipped at her altar because she was their idol. When I called Sarah, she wasn't overjoyed but said she wanted me to be content. I found out that she had put him on hold after Barb had asked her out. I wished her well, as she said she was going to say yes. Though Barb wasn't going to experience what I did, I hope she took something away from her experience. That is not what I said at all. I showed Carly the ring while we were dining at a lovely Italian restaurant. There was never any doubt about it, she squealed. The girls were all over us when we got home and were waiting for us. Kimber asked, "Can we talk to your mother?" "We already have a mom, but we decided we wanted to call your mother." Sinking to her knees, Carly gave them a firm squeeze. "Thank you, girls. It would be an honor for me. I've loved you since the day I met you. You'll always be my little girls. I'm not attempting to take your mom's place, but I would be pleased for 2 angels like you to call me mother." After a year of marriage, my love for her has only grown. She continues to be a sex diva in bed, but I've never been happier. Sarah wed Barb, and the 2 of them have a son. I don't think I will ever hear from the X family because I have never heard from them. They don't really have anything to do with them, but my sisters do occasionally bring them up. You simply have to accept your decisions sometimes. I made mine, and they made theirs. Even though I had a pretty terrible day, I think my best days are still to come. Carly will see to it. Hi there. Please feel free to forward these contents to your friends and family if you find them useful. In addition, as is customary, if you like this video, please click the like button to support our podcast in reaching a larger audience on YouTube, as the platform favors videos with a high number of likes. You might also think about becoming a subscriber to the channel so you can be notified whenever I post something new. YouTube will let you know as appropriate. I appreciate your help, and I hope you have an amazing day.